Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Freedom Teachings video series. Robert Scheinfeld here, and welcome to another edition of Brutally Honest Tuesdays. This is the first video in a multi-part series of videos that I'm going to be devoting to the topic of prosperity, abundance, and money. Now, I never know what I'm going to say when I turn on a camera like this. I don't script these things. I don't plan these things. I take my little remote, I turn it on, and where it goes, it goes. However long it goes, it goes. But my vision at the moment, whether that's what happens or not, is that this series of videos is going to be shorter than my normal videos that you may be used to if you've been following the videos that I share for a while. And they're going to be designed to do what I love to do and what I see my role as being primarily, which is to drop drops in your pond, so to speak, of your awareness, your life, your thoughts, your feelings, everything that can ripple out and over time have a lot of impact in a lot of different ways. Not necessarily completed thoughts, not necessarily giving everything on a topic, but designed to shake things up, knock cracks in the foundation, and pop what I call myths, lies, illusions, and stories, and exchange the myths, lies, illusions, and stories for an awareness of, first, truth with a capital T, and then ultimately the only thing that matters is that truth with a capital T becomes experiential, not just idea, concept, philosophy, theory, whatever. So we're going to do that systematically through this series, and I'm going to invite you to stick with me, track it, pay attention whether you subscribe to a YouTube channel, you subscribe to my blog, you subscribe to the Friday Awakening newsletter I offer on my website, whatever it is, so that you can find out when each of the episodes in this series will come out and follow along with me, because we'll build and build and build and build and build until there's a big conclusion that my intention is can have a big impact on your actual experience of prosperity, abundance, and money dynamics. Okay, now the other thing I want to say is, in this series, I am not going to talk about anything or maybe a brief reference or whatever that's in Busting Loose from the Money Game, my New York Times best-selling book. I'm not going to be sharing any of that here. If you found your way to this video and you've never heard of that book, you've never heard of me, you don't know about it, you'll see something on your screen right now, and for the next couple of seconds, I invite you to get a copy of that book if you haven't already, and discover that. I'm not going to be talking about that here. We're going to go into a completely different place here. So, if you look at the literature, whether it's success, personal development, spiritual development, whatever you want to call it, transformation, you see all over the place. You see words like prosperity and abundance and prosperity consciousness and prosperity mindset and abundance this and abundance that. And there's all this focus about money related to prosperity and abundance. So the first thing I want to do, the first thing I want to poke at, the first drops in the pond are, what is it? One of the things I find so amazing, and I was just as guilty of this as everybody else for quite a long time until this amazing journey through the cloud cover, as I call it, began for me, is we get caught up in these things and we don't dig beneath the surface to actually ask certain questions about what it is that we're focusing on or what it is that we're trying to achieve. You know, what does it really mean? What does it really mean? Not necessarily what are the things that are part of it, but what does it really mean? So what is prosperity? What is abundance? And it's interesting because very often when I do things like this, the first place that I'll start is I'll go to a dictionary and I'll type in the words just to see what the dictionary says. And the interesting thing is when I typed in this morning, just before doing this video, I typed in prosperity and I typed in abundance into two different dictionaries that I have on my iPhone and that I have on my computer, my Mac computer. The definitions were surprisingly vague for both of them. Abundance was defined as having an awful lot of something, whatever it is. Not necessarily money or whatever, but abundance was having an awful lot of something. And for prosperity, it was pretty much tied to money, having a lot of money. But here's the thing. What is it? And to one extent or another, you could say it's different for all of us, or we have some unique wrinkles for what does prosperity mean to you, what does abundance really mean to you. But if you're like I used to be, and like so many of the people that I talk to, when I'm playing the role of coach, or speaker, or teacher, or facilitator, whatever you want to call it, if you're like me in the way so many other people are, it's this vague, general blurry, and ultimately what it comes down to is more. I want a bigger income. I want more money. I want bigger savings. I want a bigger investment account. I want a bigger apartment. I want a bigger house. I want a fancier car. I want to be able to buy more expensive clothes. But it's this warm and fuzzy, vague, general, that isn't clear at all. And even if you've been to you've read a book or you've been to a workshop or you have a course or whatever, and they said, write down your goals, and write down. Or some things will say, okay, write down all these things that you want and find out how much they're going to cost and then get the total. And then once you have the total, figure out what do you have to do to earn that amount of money. You may have that kind of detail, but here's the interesting thing. I really want you to take a few minutes when you can either pause this now, which I know is unlikely, but I'm going to say that anyway, or you can do it when you're done with this video. Stop for a minute and ask yourself. And if you're into that sort of a thing, you're used to doing it, maybe write it down on paper. Ask yourself, what does prosperity mean to me? What does abundance really mean to me? And write it down or think about it. I would invite you to write it down and put down all the detail of right now what's in your mind, what I call mind machine, for what prosperity really means, what abundance really means. And let's start pushing on that. As so many self-help systems talk about, rightfully so, in a way, I have some unique things to say about that you may already be aware of or you'll find out later. You can't hit a target if you don't know what it is. There's absolutely no way that you can experience something that's specific if you have absolutely no idea what it is that you want. So if you just have this vague, general, warm and fuzzy, blurry, whatever, more or what prosperity or abundance is, ain't going to happen, from a certain perspective. If you're aware of the Phase 2 teachings, the Phase 3 teachings, the Ultimate Freedom teachings I share, there's a different perspective on all of this. But this video is designed for a mainstream audience, if you will, that doesn't have that as a foundation. So here's the first step, and here's the first few drops in the pond. I really want you to take a few minutes. You can close your eyes. If you meditate, you can go into a meditation and ask, okay, Robert's asking me to take a look at this. Let me get specific. At least what's in my mind at the moment, what's there, what's the definition for me of what prosperity and abundance means? And let's start there. And that's how I want to start this series. And again, I invite you to write it down. Ask yourself, what does prosperity mean to me? What does abundance mean to me? And by the way, I want to know what it really means to you. I don't want you to dump out some flowery, pretty, what I call enlightened overlay of what some spiritual whatever or some pretty poem or whatever it is says that it is, that's got this sugar-coated, wonderful, pretty kind of thing tied up with these nice little ribbons. I mean, nuts and bolts, practical day-to-day living, what does it really mean to you? And as we continue on this series, we'll poke at some of those things, and we'll push on some of those things, and we'll clarify the opportunities. And I'll share what prosperity and abundance used to mean to me, and what they ultimately came to mean as I knocked out more and more cloud cover using my language. If you don't know what that means, you'll see a little thing appearing on your screen right now. And you can go to that link and register to get a free training on my website that will give you a foundation in these kinds of things and the language I use and what it means. If you already know about that, then you already know about that. I'll share what prosperity and abundance used to mean to me, what it ultimately began to mean to me, and what experiencing what I call true, with a capital T, prosperity, and true, with a capital T, abundance, and having a truthful, with a capital T, relationship to money, and what it's really all about, and the possibilities in life, and what it really means, all of that. That's where we'll work through as we go through this series together. And if you're a little disappointed that I haven't put more meat on the bones in this video, I understand. Again, this was designed as different than a lot of the other videos that I've done in the past. It's the first in a series, a few drops in your pond that can ripple out. So my first invitation to you as part of taking this journey into true prosperity, abundance, and a truthful relationship with money, with capital T's, is ask yourself that question. And I would invite you to actually write it down with as much detail as possible. Let's get your starting point. What does prosperity, what does abundance really mean to you? And what is it that you really want to have happen in your life with money? And we'll start out with this as a jumping off point, as a myth, as a lie, illusion, and story that appears to be real, to start our journey together. And then if you accompany me on the journey through this video series, we'll get more and more clear, more and more precise, on defining these kinds of things, setting targets, getting clear on what they really mean, what's really possible, what's not, and then towards the end of it, after we've built a foundation, going down the path that way, we'll then get into the practical. Okay, how do you actually create that, so to speak? How can you have that happen in your life? How can you actually experience it in a nuts and bolts, practical, day-to-day life, no matter what's going on in your life? So that's all I got to share with you right now in this video. I want you to start there. Let's see what's in the mind. Let's see the myths. Let's see the lies, illusions, and stories. And again, I invite you to be brutally honest with yourself. We all have stored up some pretty sugar-coated definition of something from somewhere, and I'm not interested in that. I want you to really think and be brutally honest with yourself. And you may also find, I don't know, you start thinking, okay, Robert's asking me to what's prosperity and abundance really mean to me? I don't really know. Or you'll start to see that what comes out is an apartment in this neighborhood, or being able to shop at this store, or an income of this much, or a business that this, or this that's that, and you'll realize, okay, maybe that's part of the picture, but is that what prosperity really is? Is that what abundance really is? Is that, all that I really want, whatever? And you'll begin to see how insubstantial in so many cases the foundation under these kinds of things that are stored in the mind really are. So let's start with that. Get clear for you. What does prosperity mean? With as much detail, as much specific as possible. I'm not asking you to set a goal. I'm not asking you to try to manifest anything. I just want you to take a look in your mind, if you will, what I call the mind machine. Ask the question, what does prosperity really mean to me? What does abundance really mean to me? Write it down. And then my invitation to you would be, if you're going to follow along with me here when we go into the next videos in the series, and we get more and more specific and then get into the practical and get into the how-to, so to speak, have it with you so that you can refer to this thing that you wrote down, this definition, and refer to it as we're going down this journey together. So this is the first in the series. That's all I want you to do at this point. That's what I invite you to do. And on that note, I'll say bye-bye for now. Thanks for listening. I'll look forward to our next form of contact, whatever shape that takes. And stay tuned for the next series. Again, we're going to start out drops in the pond, ripple them out. Not so much meat on the bones, just cracking at things and shaking things up. And we'll get more and more specific, and then we'll get into the practical and the how-to. Okay, bye-bye for now. If you'd like to get more information on what you just discovered, go ahead and click on the Learn More button that you'll see appearing in a few seconds.